Professor Laird here, and I just wanted to provide you a short video on finalizing your paper. We'll look at, first of all, the syllabus, then we'll look at the guide to writing your paper that I've posted online, and then I will look at the sample bibliography that's also posted as well. Looking at the syllabus, you want to check that carefully. That gives you due dates and the basic formatting for the paper itself. All papers that I require are double-spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins, minimum of 6 sources, at least 4 of which will be from peer-reviewed academic journals, which we've gone over quite a bit already. We'll look at the guide to writing your paper here in a few minutes. Keep in mind that the paper is an analytical examination of your topic. It's not an editorial piece. It's not for you to express your opinions of what you think is right, wrong, good or bad about it. It's about reading a lot of these good sources and then describing in that paper what you've learned from those sources. Going to the Brightspace page, this is the video page under content. These are the 2 videos that I've already required for you to watch. You will certainly want to watch the video on peer-reviewed academic journals probably one more time, just so that you're clear on that. And here's where I've posted. Now, of course, the video that I'm recording right now will be also in this little section. And then supplemental info on the paper. This is where we'll be looking at the guide to writing your paper next, and then we'll take a look at the sample bibliography. We've already talked about the citations format, so we'll look at that here in a minute. The guide to writing your paper provides the 3 criteria that I'm going to use to grade your paper. The first is following instructions. That is vitally important in everything that you do, and particularly in college. So make sure you've got the proper format and the proper number of pages that's required for this particular paper. The second criteria that I use is the quality of your syntax. That's your grammar, your punctuation, your sentence structure, your organization, paragraphs, the flow of the paper, the readability of the paper. Kind of hard to define, but when a reader is reading it and they know it, so what I would recommend is you proofread it several times. Read it out loud. If it sounds clumsy or if it sounds like it might need to be clarified a little bit, use that. The more you proofread it, the more you'll catch those mistakes. The third criteria that I use is the quality of the information that you're providing me, and that's particularly from your sources. So if you find really good, credible, legitimate academic sources that are studying this particular topic, then you want to describe to me what you've learned from that study. So read this section here very carefully, because it gives you some useful tips on what to avoid, particularly the generic jargon, the cut and paste type of rhetoric that distracts from an interesting paper. You don't want to editorialize. You don't want to opinionate. You want to paraphrase what you're learning from these sources. Now, as far as your citations in the text, it's very simple. What you're going to be doing primarily on your paper is paraphrasing what you've learned from these sources. So make it very organized. You don't have to chop it up and skip it around. Just get to a source, explain it, talk about it, what you've learned from it. At the end of that passage, all I need at the end of that passage, one time, as long as it's all organized, is, for example, Jones 2014, Jones being the author of that article that you're paraphrasing from, and the year. That's all I need. So because what I do then, I quickly flip to your bibliography page, the last page of your paper, and that is in alphabetical order, last name first. I scroll down very quickly. I look at Jones. I read that, and if you've cited that correctly, I can go, wow, that looks like a good source. And then I go back to reading. So that is extremely important that you tell me where that material is coming from that you're describing or paraphrasing that you've learned. Now, if you're using a quote, and I would recommend that you use quotes sparingly. You don't want to just throw a lot of quotes in there because that's lazy writing. You want to find a really good, useful quote that perhaps sums things up for that passage. And at the end of that quote, the only difference there is what I'll need is Jones 2014 and the page number of that article that quote came from. So that's the only difference that I need, that if you are citing a quote from that passage. So I can't stress this enough, to read this guide more than once so that you are aware of the criteria that I use to grading your paper, which is as much as 20% of your grade in almost all my classes, so that you would want to do a really good job on that. Critical thinking, that's kind of at the heart of it. Read that. I want you to tell me what you've learned. Read a lot and tell me what you've learned. As far as the sources go, we've talked about the sources. I'll look at the sample bibliography here in a minute. But peer-reviewed academic journals, which of course are going to be the heart of your paper, you want last name first, followed by the year, followed by the title of that article in quotation marks, followed by, most importantly, the name of that journal in italics. See, putting in this format allows me to look at what the format of what the source is, and I can tell the credibility of that source immediately. Right after the name of the journal, all I need is volume, issue, page numbers. I don't need the words volume, issue, and page number. I just need those numbers in that order, in that format, and that tells me exactly what I need. Volume, the issue is in parentheses, followed by a colon, page numbers, that's all I need. Don't need to write out the words volume or issue or pages, because if it's in the right format, I can tell within seconds that that is a credible source. If you've got an edited volume, that's where you check out a book and it's got lots of interesting articles in it. This is the format for that. Books, if you've got a book that you've checked out that pertaining to your topic that you want to use as a source, the book format is basically in the same order, but yet even just a little bit simpler still. You've got author's name, last name first. Be sure to put an "and" before the last author. That's proper grammar. See, even if you're listing out several authors, your lead author obviously has to be last name first because it's in alphabetical order. But the co-authors don't have to be last name first because that saves on commas and it makes it more clear. But be sure to put an "and" before the last author's name because that's just proper grammar. And then with websites, you want the same general order. With a website, you're going to want to put the actual date because those could be potentially changing every day. But the order is basically the same. I need the specific date that article was put on the website. I need once again, the title of the article in quotation marks, followed by what the website is, in this case, cbsnews.com. And then, of course, with the peer-reviewed journals, you do not put the web link because it would just be a mile long and it would just be gibberish. I don't need that because this thing has been published one time and it'll be there from 2018 till the end of time. So I don't need the web link. But for a news source, internet source, I need the web link. They are mercifully short. Usually, in this case, it's the web link is the same as the name of the article. And then the typical standard requirement here is just to tell the reader when you access that article, because it might have been a little bit later after it was published. You can put accessed the month of or retrieved the month of. Either one of those is fine. If there's no specific author, then you would use whatever that organization was that wrote this article or published this piece, but it's still the same general order. Title of the thing here, in this case, this is a publication, so that would be in italics. Whenever it's a publication, it's the italics. Article name would be in quotations. So that gives you some examples. Now let's go to a sample bibliography. So your paper is double spaced for a specific reason, but when you get to the final page, now the bibliography is not included in your minimum page requirements. This is extra over and above what you've already put in your paper, but your last page will be your bibliography, your reference page, and I've already shown you the formats, but your reference page, your citations, will be single spaced with a space in between them. So as you can see, alphabetical order, very organized. You would probably be able to put all of your sources on one page. So being organized, following instructions, that is extremely important because I need all the students basically on the same page, so to speak, when they submit their papers. Okay, that was a little brief video on finalizing your paper. So if you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email.